everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails. Guys, we have already covered how to use Jedi Luke to counter Supreme Leader Kylo. We're all about that off-meta counter life in Grand Arena, and so we can take out Supreme Leader Kylo, or at least most of the comps, using Jedi Luke. We have a slightly more expensive, in terms of your total resources you have to expend, counter two Rey teams as well. It's pretty consistent. I wouldn't call it quite as consistent as the Supreme Leader Kylo one, just because the Rey teams are just a little bit more complicated and diverse. But I'm going to show you guys. I'll walk through how it should work. I'll walk you through how the modding should work, and then if everything goes to hell, which is some of the time, I'm going to talk to you guys about how to kind of mitigate that, how to make things a little bit better, and everything. So I hope you enjoy this, and let's actually jump in. Before we get too crazy into this, guys, do want to give a huge shout out to my patrons. You guys are amazing. Really appreciate all the support. And as I mentioned in my last counter video, you guys helped fund all this research. I've spent a lot of crystals in arena testing, and I really appreciate all of the support for that. Hopefully it will lead to other good things as well in the future, but for now, I just really appreciate your faith in me and my channel. So once again, thank you guys. Alright, so first, huge shout out to Clash and his buddy Vigo for coming up with this team composition and the modding for it. I did not come up with them. The modding is extremely important to make sure that your guys go in the right order. And so, huge shout out to them. Go check them out in the video description. I'll have a link there. And, my job here, guys, is to turn this into how to use it in Grand Arena. Like, they had a really great proof of concept, and the fact is, Grand Arena is going to change things just a little bit, the way it looks, and, climbing in Arena is also going to change it a little bit. So I do use this counter basically every day in my Arena climbs, so it's pretty reliable. I would call it slightly less reliable than the Kylo counter, as I said before, but it's still pretty good. And let's actually just look at the modding here real quick. Alright guys, so here is the team comp. We have Bastila as lead. You could use Jedi Revan sometimes, and I'll show you a clip using him, but it can be pretty unreliable. We really like that extra protection bonus that she gets. The other thing that's really great about her is you get an extra speed bonus. You get plus 15% speed on everyone. So that's huge. That's bigger than Jedi Knight Revan's like plus 35 or whatever you'd get from him in the long run. So the other big difference between this squad and the Supreme Leader Kylo composition is we are not using Old Ben, we're using General Skywalker, and I realize that is super expensive. It kills me. I would prefer not to use this composition if possible. Like, in my opinion, using a Vader team is going to be way more efficient usually, but there are some teams you just can't use Vader on, and this squad you can use against almost every single Rey comp. I haven't found a Rey composition that I can't beat with these guys. So, whereas it's expensive, it is pretty reliable and versatile. And sometimes you just need to do this because your Vader comp craps the bed, and that's about it, guys. So we need to have these guys. Notice their speed order. The speed order is extremely important. So we have Jedi Knight Revan, and Hermit Yoda is right behind him at 312. So 313, 312. We want Revan to go first. We have to have him go first. Next up is going to be Bastila, and then we need Jedi Knight Luke to be at least one speed faster than General Skywalker. It's incredibly important that you go in this turn order, as you guys will see, and I said it in my last video, I'll say it again here. Your mods, you can probably have a little bit slower of mods, but your results are going to be worse. The lesser speed you have, the harder it is going to be able to counter some of these teams, because if we're countering Rey gives plus 30 extra speed to everyone on her team, at least if they're light side, and people are modding their Finn to be crazy fast, 330, 335, stuff like that. We need to be able to beat that, and the faster the speed we have, the more likely we're going to actually succeed. All right, next, the other stat that is incredibly important is making sure you have General Skywalker modded for offense. I have a full offense set. I think I have a health set on him as well, that you could probably do, like crit chance would probably be a little better for him, honestly, for reasons we'll go into. But you can see my damage stat, 9,300 or so. He is heavily modded for offense, and where we can fit in protection, that's great. But for the most part, like the arrow has offense primary, everything has offense. We want to be able to hit like a truck, and hit like a truck he does. He's a little more fragile, but man, he can put out some damage. He is the linchpin for this team. Jedi Knight Luke is the guy who made it possible because we're stacking buffs, and like I said, we'll explain all of this in a minute. But the guy who does most of the killing is General Skywalker, so you need him to have a lot of offense. Jedi Luke wants a lot of offense, but in this composition, yes, it helps, but it's not nearly as important as General Skywalker. The first priority, of course, is going to be the turn order, so having Jedi Luke go right before General Skywalker is key, as I said before. And let's actually jump into some footage now. Alright guys, so one more note before our footage, sorry, needed to add something extra here. So the thing that's awesome about the modding for this team is it is compatible with the Supreme Leader Kylo comp. Like, you can have the exact same speeds, just add General Skywalker in the turn order, make him one speed slower than Luke, and you're good. Like, you don't have to prepare for only Kylo and not be able to kill Rey. You can take out Rey and Kylo, either or, in your matches, so it leads to a pretty versatile roster point. Like, you can make some good decisions in terms of which guy you want to counter with what. So that is one thing I really like about using this composition. It's not just expensive. It is expensive, but it also adds a certain element of versatility to your roster that it probably wasn't there before, so I hope this helps. The team we're going to look at first is the one in the middle there, the one for my buddy Johnny on the spot. This is a team that is something you're going to see in Grand Arena a lot. It's got a fast Finn, it's got a really healthy Rey, and it's got Malak with a ton of tenacity here. I'll let you guys see the mods in just a sec. So you can see Finn, he's got all 6E mods, and he's 330 speed, so that means he's 360 under Rey. With Poe, he's not quite as fast. And then look at Malak, look at his tenacity. This is crazy. You can't land debuffs on this man. 193% tenacity is just crazy. It's not fast, but like he blocks Vader comps super well. So what we're gonna do here, have it preloaded. We're taking the Bastila version of this. Well, I'll get into the Jedi Revan version of this in a minute with him lead, but I'm going to freeze frame here in just a minute just to explain kind of the things that you're looking for, the things that are going on in this match. So just to make it as brief as possible here, guys, the TLDR here is Rey goes first, and then she doesn't take another turn is the goal. You just stack buffs, a ton of buffs, onto General Skywalker, and then he one-shots Rey before she can go again. That's the goal. You want to just one-shot her. You're going straight for the throat, and if that doesn't work, there are things you can do to make it work, but it does get harder. So what's going to happen? She gave lifeblood to someone, it doesn't matter who, and now this is kind of the ideal setup because they have an auto taunt. They have a tank who is taunting right now. That is wonderful, and you'll see why in just a minute. So one other factor here is before the match goes, you need to make sure that your Jedi Revan, at the very least, is going to go first. You have to do that math. So mine is 313, something like that, plus 15%. gives me a total of 368.23 speed. So even if their fin ended up being 368 total speed, we would still outspeed him by playing to 2-3, which is important because of the new turn meter rules. You get the advantage. So you get that as opposed to if you had Jedi Revan as lead here, he would actually be 348 speed instead. So 220, I should say, speed slower, and that is a pretty big deal. So Revan does go first, and he's going to target Rey. He can target outside of taunt. That's great. We mark her, and now it's time to put on all the buffs that we can possibly fit. So what's going to happen is, because there's a pre-taunt here, this is an important aspect, guys. If there's not a pre-taunt, it gets a little bit trickier. We're going to be doing a massive amount of damage with General Skywalker, and that means that even though Rey is still in the protection, she has most of her health, and that health pool is pretty huge, we don't want to get into her damage immunity. We need to skip that entirely. We need to one-shot her with General Skywalker. So what we're going to be doing now is have the taunting tank take all of the aggro. Now this can work if there's like General Kenobi here, but some compositions with Rey don't even have a taunting tank, and we'll talk about what to do if that is the case. It makes it a lot harder. L3 here makes it much easier, however, and this is a pretty standard composition, so you're going to be able to see things like this in Grand Arena. Let's see what happens. So we have L3 targeted. Even though we have Mark on Rey, seems kind of silly. So we give the buffs to General Skywalker, and now Finn and Poe both go, and they both shoot General Skywalker. That's pretty much always what happens. They always target him. That's hard-coded. They're always going to target him, and that's actually fine. Here's the thing. Bastila lead gives all of her guys a plus 35% bonus to their damage if they have that bonus protection still up. So we want to make sure that his bonus protection is still up. That's why I have him modded with health mods as the second set, because for whatever reason, bonus protection is based off of your health pool, and Finn and Poe can do a lot of damage. If they start really going to town on you, it's not going to feel great, and if they get rid of that bonus protection on Skywalker, things can go south pretty quick because you're not going to be doing all that extra damage. And this whole composition depends on different offensive multipliers stacking on top of each other, so you need to have that extra health pool in order to supply extra protection up pool for General Skywalker so that he can survive a bunch of hits from super fast Finn and Poe. So still targeting L3, we're giving Skywalker all of the buffs. And now is the moment of truth. So we've gotten all the buffs onto General Skywalker. Look at him resplendent in all of those undispellable green buffs. That is amazing. He's gonna hit like a truck. We've already modded him to hit like a truck. So we target Rey, and we're going to use the second special, which is the AoE, and it does less damage, but what that's going to do is get Rey closer, like as close to the threshold as we can dare, before she actually hits that 50% mark and goes into damage immunity, and then he's going to follow up with his first special, as you'll see, and hopefully we can get some pretty gaudy damage numbers, and we can just put an end to the menace that was Rey Palpatine. So AoE, and here's a cool freeze frame. Look at all that damage. Look at how much we did to Malak. We almost did 180k damage to Malak in the back. We didn't do crits to the two hero bros because they have crit immunity, but we did do 120k to Rey. You can see how close she is to her damage immunity. And then we jump in with our second hit and do almost 300k, healing ourselves for a completely unreasonable 104k. So, plus 103 as well, because that matters. But now she's gone, and actually we managed to take out L3 and Malak, which are kind of just bonuses. Like, we don't really care about them, but this is pretty crazy, guys. We did a huge amount of damage to Rey, and now she's gone, and the hero bros don't stand a chance. So, that was pretty badass. Let's get a replay. So he winds up and takes his shot.
And his name is John C.
Okay, so let's try this a second time just to make sure it works. You can tell that it is a second attempt because of the way that it is, and also because the background is different. We're not in Tatooine. So we mark Rey, and now we're targeting L3 because she's the taunting tank. The two hero bros go. They don't take out Skywalker's protection, and now everyone is buffing Skywalker again. He winds up to do his big hit and takes out Rey, no problem. It didn't actually kill Malak here, so it's a little bit more difficult. Because I want to preserve how long this video is, though, we're not going to watch the rest of this. Instead, let's jump in against this Rey team with Han and Chewie. It's the one in the middle with a couple other Jedi. It's problematic because Han can stun one of our Jedi and make our turn order a little bit weird. But this is a good proof of concept in the sense that we're not going to see it in Grand Arena much, but it's a pretty tricky squad, and it shows just how versatile this team can actually be. So you can see here, I actually took Jedi Revan as the lead, and that's just because I think the first time I tried it, I actually failed. This is, as I said, it's not a perfect 100% win rate with this team, especially with these weird compositions, and if they hit the wrong person at the wrong time, it can really throw things off pretty big. The first time I think it hit Luke, like Han shot Luke, and Luke gained a bunch of turn meter. He went first, and then I think the biggest key here, guys, is here in a minute you'll see Kenobi. We want him to taunt really bad. We want him to taunt. We want to do crits to Rey. She has crit immunity, and Luke with his basic can dispel that. But it has to go in the right order. You need to be able to dispel it, then do a crit on her, which is actually tougher than it sounds, and then put everything onto Kenobi. So in this case, you can see that we did manage to dispel, then do a crit, and so now we can do all of the same turn order as we had done previously. Now, if they had chosen to stun General Skywalker, or worse, Bastila, if they had stunned Bastila, we'd be in a pretty tricky situation. So, as it stands, we were able to just take out Rey like we normally do because we could target Kenobi the way we're quote-unquote supposed to do. And I'm not going to show you guys the cleanup here. That's something you guys can figure out on your own. It's not pleasant usually, but something you can figure it out on your own, as I said. So now we're just going to do a bunch of quick hitters, guys. I'm going to show a bunch of different compositions versus Rey, a bunch of different decision making, and a bunch of different results, just so you guys can see this is the same squad. It's the All the Jedi squad with Rey as lead. And so, as you can see, we marked Rey. We're under Bastila lead, by the way. We marked Rey, and now Kenobi's not doing his job. He's not taunting. So immediately we have to assume probably the worst. Like, we're probably not going to get the kill on Rey this time. And they did actually mark Jedi Luke for some reason. So usually they mark General Skywalker, but it's fine that they marked Luke here. Rey is in damage immunity, which is unfortunate. She kills Luke. Savior is triggered, which is fine. And now we just have to rush. Like, okay, so Revan hasn't had his cooldowns reduced, so he hands the turn over to General Skywalker, and he finishes things. Now we're going to do the exact same thing. Same team comps. We're going to mark, so we mark Rey here, and now we're just sending people over again. Kenobi is not taunting. We just can't get the crit on Rey for whatever reason. And so once again, we have to be resigned to actually just taking her out after a second attempt here. So once again, we're in damage immunity here. People are hitting Luke. They apparently marked Luke a second time. I don't know how consistent that is over the course of time, or if that was just two examples in a row that just happened to occur. But now we need to take out Rey, obviously, before anything happens. Revan passes the turn meter to General Skywalker, who's able to finish things. Now, one of the biggest failure points here is when General Skywalker is fast enough to actually get an AoE off on Jedi Revan and he can't pass the turn because he has his cooldowns increased. That is a really tricky situation to get out of, because a lot of times Luke will have stunned everyone and you just miss a lot of turns, and eventually Rey is out of her mark and it's a huge mess. So once again, Kenobi was not taunting the way he should be. We're just not getting crits, and it's a really frustrating situation. I think that's why I chose this team to try against it so many times, just to see what the failure rate is. So one thing I want to point out here though, guys, is Jedi Revan did in fact get marked here, and that means his cooldowns are increased. He can't pass the turn to anyone, and this is a huge failure point. If they manage to make this happen, if they mark Jedi Revan and you don't get any kind of help from Kenobi in terms of him actually taunting, then things can go south really, really fast. And you'll see in just a minute, things absolutely do go south. So we have hits going on to Jedi Revan here, and things aren't looking pretty. They kill Revan, then Whirlwind goes off, they kill General Skywalker, and I quit. So now I'm trying Jedi Revan as the lead here. Hopefully we can get Kenobi to taunt. It looks like he can this time taunt. And then I made a mistake here. I hit with Luke. He could only do a basic. I hit Kenobi and it took away his taunt. So that was foolish of me. And now we can just struggle against this Rey team again. But yeah, it's a huge mess. This composition can be really tricky to beat sometimes, guys. I won't lie. So I did manage to get myself out of it there. Having that foresight is a pretty big deal, actually. So once again, we have Jedi Revan lead. I think this is going to be our last example, guys. So we have Jedi Revan lead, and we get the mark. And under Jedi Revan lead, their Revan goes way faster because we're a lot slower overall under his lead than Bastila lead. But we do have the taunt on Kenobi, and we're able to get something to happen, but we don't actually kill Rey here. Even after we get the taunt off, we do all of the special moves, we do everything, because Luke doesn't have his Jedi will buff on General Skywalker. So it takes a while to actually get damage immunity on Rey here at all. And now she's in her ultimate, and things have gone into a huge mess, frankly. So I decided to stick this one out, though, just see if we can win. And so we need to make sure our health is as maximum as possible. As maximum as possible is a great phrase, by the way. And, we can stun, we can do a bunch of stuff. If you hit Rey right now, you can actually increase her or decrease her max health. Sometimes that works, even as she's in that ultimate state. So we just need to target Rey. We need to get rid of her if we can. Revan actually just randomly has another mark in him, so that's pretty cool of him. And now we can take out Rey and call it good. Alright guys, that's all I'm going to show you today. So, you see the proof of concept, it works pretty well. Sometimes things get unraveled pretty quick. I'd still put it at around, for myself, 85% if the taunt doesn't happen. I still win the vast majority of my matches. It gets ugly sometimes. You don't get as good of banners. If there is a pre-taunt, or you get General Kenobi to taunt right away, it goes up to somewhere between 90 and 95% is my guess. I haven't actually recorded it, and I have a small enough sample size that it probably wouldn't be that significant anyways. But get your mods straight, guys. That's a huge important thing. And keep in mind that people call this Luke Nukem. They call this squad Luke Nukem. I've been calling it Jedi Coalition, which is pretty lame compared to the really clever Luke Nukem that Clash came up with. But if you really think about it, like, Luke doesn't nuke anything. He's just like, here, Dad, have a buff. And General Skywalker's like, thank you. I hope I can handle myself. And then he proceeds to go and either kill Rey or crap the bed. And either way, Luke doesn't really have much say in it after he passes that buff. So, keep that in mind when you're calling it whatever you want to call it. Luke Nukem does roll off the tongue pretty nicely, though. So, anyways, guys, I hope this helps you. Keep in mind that there are a lot of interactions that I couldn't cover here. This is just a primer on how to set things up, the turn order you want to go in, how to do everything, and if you have issues, then, hit me up on Discord. That's in the video description. We'd love to hear from you. Hit me up in the comments, as long as it's respectful. All of that stuff. Love to hear from you guys. And I think I'm going to just call it good here. So if you liked this video, if it was helpful, I would appreciate a like or a sub or both. And if you don't want to do that, if you're stingy with such things, then more power to you, I guess. And I will see you in the next video. So thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.